Man, the Indiana Fever might be screwed, and we have to break this down with everybody being so thirsty, jumping at all of these other leagues, jumping at all of this other money alongside the WNBA CBA negotiation, which is looking to add 54, make the season 54 games.
The Indiana Fever might be about to lose their entire core. Not because of bad management, not because players want out, but because 3 separate leagues are about to collide in March 2027, and the math doesn't work. Sophie Cunningham could be gone in the expansion draft. Kelsey Mitchell signed a contract with Project B that directly conflicts with WNBA scheduling, and the new CBA proposal just made everything exponentially worse.
Now, we all know Kelsey Mitchell joined Project B. Kelsey Mitchell is also a part of Unrivaled right now. Now, with the WNBA CBA negotiations, they're looking to add 10 more games. Y'all want all of this money, and we see y'all can't do no ratings without Caitlin Clark. Bow! 10 more games for that ass. That is what the WNBA is looking to do. Now, let's get into this article by Front Office Sports. And then we have to go to Sports Illustrated for an article about the Indiana Fever's bad situation.
Here's the problem nobody's talking about. The WNBA wants to expand from 44 games to 54 games starting in 2027. That's 10 additional games they're adding to an already packed schedule. And according to sources familiar with the negotiations, they're proposing training camp starts as early as mid-March, with finals extending into November. Now look at what Project B just announced. Their Tokyo tournament stop begins. Kelsey Mitchell already signed her contract with Project B back in the fall. She's locked in. So what happens when WNBA training camp opens in mid-March and she's contractually obligated to be in Tokyo? The league hasn't figured this out yet. Neither has the Fever front office.
That its Tokyo tournament stop will start March 26, 2027. Now, check this out. Here it says, let's get to the meat and potatoes, man. KTV ain't gonna play games with y'all. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. Boom. According to a source familiar with negotiations, the WNBA is proposing an increase from 44 games to 50 to 54 games in the new CBA. The league's proposed start date for training camp is as early as mid.
But the scheduling conflict is only part of Indiana's nightmare. They're facing 2 expansion drafts in the next 18 months. Golden State already took Tammy Fag-Bentley last year when the Fever could protect 6 players. This time around, the assumption is teams will only be able to protect 5 players when Toronto and Portland enter the league. 5 spots. Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and Lexi Hall are locks. That's 4. Which means the Fever have to choose between protecting Michaela Timpson, who's on a rookie contract, or Sophie Cunningham, who just became a household name playing next to Clark. And here's the thing about that choice. There's no good answer.
You got Caitlin Clark, you still gonna pull numbers. So that is a problem. Project B and the WNBA seem to be on a collision course. Now, even if they don't start in March and they start the season later, Project B, they're still gonna bump into Project B's schedule. How's that going to work when you got players under contract in the WNBA and signing to Project B? How's this going to work? There's going to have to start being some sort of exclusivity in these deals to where you can't play in this league. You can't play in that league. That's what it's going to have to be, or else it's just going to be a big issue.
Think about Sophie Cunningham's situation from Toronto's perspective. She's not a max-level player, never has been. But she spent an entire season next to the most marketable player in women's basketball, and her brand value skyrocketed because of it. Her social media following exploded. Her jersey sales went up. She became recognizable to casual fans who couldn't name 5 other WNBA players if you gave them a minute to think about it. If you're the Toronto Tempo and you're trying to sell tickets in a new market, Sophie Cunningham is exactly the kind of player you target in an expansion draft. She brings name recognition without requiring max money. She's proven she can handle the spotlight. And most importantly, she's available if Indiana chooses to protect Timpson instead. The Fever are gambling that Toronto and Portland won't commit the money necessary to keep her. That's a dangerous bet.
So, Kelsey Mitchell is going to require a max contract. Sophie Cunningham wants to get paid. We must take care of Lexi Hall. I don't want Lexi Hall taking a back burner to nobody after the way she was disrespected by Stephanie White and this new crew that came in here throwing their weight around, throwing her to the back burner for Dewana the Scammer, Bonner, and Natasha Howard, and all these people that was absolute trash for the team. Throwing her to the back burner just for her to show up and save everybody's ass again. It's a core four, not a big three. Lexi Hall is a part of the Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell core, and she needs to be treated as such.
Now add in the financial pressure. Every player not on a rookie contract is about to hit free agency when the new CBA gets finalized. That includes Sophie Cunningham, who already said publicly she's not taking a pay cut because she wants to buy a house. It includes Kelsey Mitchell, who's going to command a max contract after averaging 19.2 points per game last season. It includes Lexi Hall, who saved the Fever season multiple times after Stephanie White's coaching decisions put them in holes they shouldn't have been in. The Fever have 3 players under contract right now: Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Michaela Timpson. Everyone else needs new deals. And with the salary cap about to change under the new CBA, nobody knows exactly how much money they'll have to work with.
Prevailing thought is that Indiana will elect to protect Michaela Timpson, given she's under contract on a rookie deal. But that will mean leaving a fan favorite Sophie Cunningham unprotected and gambling on the idea that the expansion franchises would not make a commitment necessary to keep her, and that she will wind up back with the Fever regardless. Now, if you don't protect Sophie Cunningham, you're running a risk. Because if I'm the Toronto Tempo or the Portland Fire, I'm definitely gonna sign Sophie Cunningham, and I'm definitely gonna pay her, because due to her being next to Caitlin Clark, she's become a household name in the WNBA. She's gonna help.
But let's get back to the Project B problem, because this is where it gets really messy. Unrivaled runs from January through March. That league doesn't conflict with the WNBA because it ends before training camp. Players can do both. Kelsey Mitchell is playing in Unrivaled right now, and that's fine. Project B is different. Project B runs from November through April. Their inaugural season tips off in November 2026 and extends through April 2027. The WNBA wants training camp to start in mid-March 2027. You see the problem. There's a 6-week overlap where Kelsey Mitchell would theoretically need to be in 2 places at once. And unlike Unrivaled, which is based in Miami with a compressed schedule, Project B is a traveling league with international stops. Tokyo in late March, other cities throughout the spring. Mitchell can't just hop on a quick flight and make it work. She's either with Project B fulfilling her contract, or she's with the Fever for training camp and the start of the WNBA season. Not both.
I know Sophie Cunningham says she wants to return to the Fever, but I mean, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. There are only 2 WNBA players not on rookie contracts who won't be free agents. That's Kalani Brown and Lexi Brown, for you that don't know. So the Fever, like every team, are going to have to make a lot of signings as soon as the green light is given. So the Indiana Fever could be in a very, very tough, nasty predicament to where they can't protect Sophie Cunningham and she's gone. But even worse than that, Kelsey Mitchell was signed with Project B.
The WNBA hasn't addressed this publicly yet. Neither has Project B. Neither has Kelsey Mitchell's agent. Everyone's waiting to see how the CBA negotiations shake out before making any official statements. But behind the scenes, this is causing real anxiety in Indiana's front office. Because here's what nobody wants to say out loud. If the WNBA forces players to choose between their league and Project B, some players are going to choose Project B. The money's competitive, the schedule is more favorable for international players. And the league is building something that could genuinely rival the WNBA in terms of talent and viewership within 5 years. Kelsey Mitchell already made her choice by signing with Project B first. Now the WNBA is changing the schedule in a way that creates a direct conflict. So who blinks? Does Project B let her miss the Tokyo stop? Does the WNBA give her an exemption to join the team late? Or does Indiana lose their second leading scorer because 2 leagues couldn't figure out how to coexist?
The season later, and it trickles on further into November, further down the line, and it interferes with Kelsey Mitchell's Project B contract. What happens? This is what I'm saying, man. This could get crazy. This could get absolutely crazy. But one thing's for sure, two things for certain. KTV gonna keep you updated on everything going on. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, and get down those.
Here's what makes this particularly frustrating for Fever fans. This team finally figured it out last season. After years of being a bottom-tier franchise, they drafted Caitlin Clark, paired her with Aaliyah Boston, and suddenly they were selling out arenas and pulling ratings that rivaled NBA playoff games. They had chemistry, they had momentum, they had a core that looked like it could compete for championships for the next decade. And now, through no fault of their own, that core might get blown up. Sophie Cunningham could be gone in the expansion draft because they can only protect 5 players. Kelsey Mitchell might miss the start of the season because of a scheduling conflict nobody anticipated when she signed with Project B. Lexi Hull deserves a significant raise after the way she performed, but the Fever might not have the cap space to give it to her if they're maxing out Mitchell and paying market rate for Cunningham. The front office did everything right. They drafted well. They developed their young players. They hired a coach with championship experience. They built a winning culture, and now they're watching other leagues and expansion teams threaten to dismantle what they built. This is the unintended consequence of the WNBA's growth. More teams means expansion draft. More money means competing leagues. More games means scheduling conflicts. The league is getting bigger and more successful, which should be celebrated. But growth creates complications, and right now, Indiana is dealing with all of them at once. The CBA negotiations need to address this, not just for the Fever but for every team dealing with players who signed overseas contracts or committed to other leagues before the WNBA changed its schedule. There has to be a mechanism for handling conflict. There has to be clarity about what happens when a player's Project B contract overlaps with WNBA training camp. And there has to be protection for teams that built something special, only to watch expansion drafts and scheduling chaos tear it apart. Because if the WNBA doesn't figure this out, we're going to see more situations like Indiana's. Teams that did everything right getting punished because the league grew faster than its infrastructure could handle. Players forced to choose between contracts they signed in good faith. Fans watching their favorite rosters get dismantled, not because of free agency or trades, but because nobody planned for what happens when 3 leagues try to share the same athletes. Sophie Cunningham said she wants to stay in Indiana. Kelsey Mitchell hasn't said anything publicly about the scheduling conflict, but she's been with the Fever since This is her team. Lexi Hull developed into a legitimate rotation player specifically because of how she fits with Clark and Boston. Nobody wants this core to break up, but wanting something and making it happen are 2 different things. The Fever can only protect 5 players in the expansion draft. They can't force Project B to change its schedule. They can't create salary cap space that doesn't exist under the new. All they can do is wait for the league to finalize these negotiations and hope the rules don't screw them over. And that's the most frustrating part of all of this. Indiana's fate isn't in their own hands anymore. It's in the hands of CBA negotiators, who might not fully understand how their decisions impact individual teams. It's in the hands of Project B executives, who have no incentive to accommodate WNBA scheduling. It's in the hands of Toronto and Portland, who might see Sophie Cunningham as the perfect veteran to build around in a new market. The Fever did everything right. They might lose anyway. And if that happens, it won't be because they made bad decisions. It'll be because the WNBA's growth created problems nobody saw coming. And by the time everyone realized what was happening, it was too late to fix it. So what do you think happens here? Does Sophie Cunningham get protected? Or does Indiana gamble that expansion teams won't pay her? Does Kelsey Mitchell miss the start of the WNBA season to honor her Project B contract? Or does one of these leagues blink and restructure? And most importantly, is there any way the Fever keep this core together, or are we watching the beginning of the end for one of the league's best young team? Let me know in the comments, because this situation is only going to get more complicated from here.